All right, we are alive and good to go.
Green light means go. Welcome everyone to the Internship Insights event presented by Playfly Sports. It is part of SPC's Career Cheat Code series, trying to give college students the cheat codes to that really fun and challenging transition from college to career. We have an amazing panel, and you can see those folks on the screen that we're going to introduce here shortly. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of the general event and provide you some tips and thoughts and takeaways before we jump in. And we'll go from there. But thank you to everyone for coming. We've got 37 people in the chat. I'm sure more of them on the way. Just as a reminder before we jump into that presentation, let's crush those emojis. You can see a smiley sign there. So if anyone in the panel is dropping something that's connecting to you is really helpful, feel free to use those. Also on the right side, you'll see a chat function. So we encourage commentary and thoughts on that chat function. You'll see a Q&A, so you can drop a question in there, and myself, Mia, or John, our team, can pull you up to ask that question. And similarly, if you want to raise your hand, you can raise your hand. We'll pull you up. We can ask you this question as well. We want this to be an engaged audience. This isn't a lecture. Lectures are no fun. Lectures are what happens when you get in trouble. This is not that. This is not college. This is not school. This is helping you guys get a job. Cool? I'm going to give myself emoji for that. There you go. I'm going to clap for myself for that. Cool. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to jump in. Lana, you see it?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to everyone that was able to make it. Really do appreciate it. Thank you to our sponsors. So as you know, this event is fully funded. The Airmeet Arena in which we're currently playing is amazing. It costs money, and we have sponsors that fund our ability to put on these programs and fund the support that we need to put on these programs. And thank you to these amazing organizations. Additionally, as a nonprofit, we have 400 plus individual donors that contribute to our mission and supporting you all as college students to make that really challenging transition from college to career. We have a separate vertical that focuses on college readiness for our high school students as well. But suffice it to say, we could not do any of that without their financial support. Okay. And then, of course, thank you to Playfly Sports, which is our presenting sponsor for the event. You're going to hear from Kate McKinnon, the head of HR and talent, here shortly in the panel. But thank you again to Playfly Sports for funding this amazing opportunity and pouring into these students that are so deserving. So I mentioned it. Our goal for today is to get you an internship and try to get you a job, right? Our interests are aligned. We're not here to ask you for money. We are not here to do anything other than get you all prepared and provide you the cheat codes to help you in that really challenging transition from college to career, which can be, I think, the hardest transition. In addition to that, we're going to have some additional resources following this event. You probably received some emails about our SBC Careers platform. So currently, and it's still a work in progress, we're going to be adding elements to it. It's a bi-monthly e-blast highlighting job opportunities and internship opportunities with our current sponsors. Those will also be posted on our careers board at sportsbizcamps.com. And then we're going to be releasing additional marketing content and career-related content for our sponsors. So this is meant to not just be an event, but also be a launch point for your relationship with us and putting you guys closer to amazing entry-level opportunities with our sponsors, such as Playfly Sports. Sounds good, right? Yeah, I can get down with that. Let's transition to this event. So hard to believe, but November 16th is already here. Maybe some of you joined us back in September for our Get Ahead Before Graduation event. This is our final event for 2021. It is all about internships. Real quick, really important, need you to listen. An internship is not about getting credits to graduate. I understand why higher ed started to mandate internships as part of your graduation, but I think it's changed the theme and the tone and the importance and the role of internships. It's not just to graduate. Yes, that's important. But internship is so much more than that. It's your launch point for your career, right? So look at it like, yes, this is what I need to graduate. But look at it like, where can I get that launch point started? Who are the people I want to surround myself with? What's the role and the job function I want to have? What are the skills I want to acquire? That internship should be the launch point for your career. I'll give you an example. This is a lot to read because it's confusing, but it's important. At my internship, I met the person who hired me for my first job. My first job got me my second job. I was hired for my third job by the person that gave me my internship. Came full circle. I met someone at my first job that helped me get my fourth job, and I started SBC with that person. It's meant to be confusing. It's meant to be a circle. All of it started with my internship, guys, and the same process can happen for you. If you put in the time, you find the right organization, you make the most of that opportunity. You just never know where that could take you, okay? So it's not credits, it's a launch point, and consider it that. And clearly it's been a launch point for me, and it's a launch point for what I'm doing today and trying to help you guys find an internship. It's come full circle. So think of it as a starting line, okay? Think of it as a starting line for your career and make the most of that opportunity. Our run of the show for today is the panel with the amazing folks you'll see here on the screen. I'll introduce them here shortly. That's from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern. And then following that, our virtual roundtables, which are career conversations with folks from these organizations and many more. So this is the opportunity for you to actually ask questions, interact with people, get the chance to build relationships with people that have raised their hand to say that they want to help you understand the role of internships, how to land an internship, and how to have success. That is from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Important note, you should be going, once we're into the social lounge, to the table based upon last name. So Lana would have shared in advance, and then you'll be able to see on the table, if your last name is S, you might be at the table from P through T, right? So go by the first letter of your last name. The professionals have already been assigned tables, but you are supposed to go based upon last name. We might pluck you, move you to a different table if there's too many people with one last name versus another, but that's how you should be able to do wayfinding, okay? That's going to happen immediately following this panel. A couple things I wanted to address as well. So it is not all me. I have a stacked team. So thank you to Austin, who's very involved and owns our SBC Careers platform. Mia and John, who will be very involved managing the chat, the Q&A, and the raising hands. It is a true team effort. So thank you to the three of you. And then thank you to everyone's boss, Lana. She's the boss for really putting this event together, keep everything moving. She also loves The Office, so I had to find some way to pay an homage to that affection for The Office. You're welcome, Lana. Lana, thanks for all your help and leadership. All right, so a couple things to remember, and then we're going to jump in. Follow through. So if you actually watched my orientation video that we had sent before this, it's great that you're here at the event, but how are you following through from this event? The people that you meet, how do you stay in touch with them? How do you build a relationship with them? How do you follow through on the advice that you get? That's more important than showing up, right? You've got to follow through. Everyone you're talking to has been in your shoes before, right? They were told they had to get an internship to graduate, or they were trying to figure out what they wanted to do. Take them up on the advice that they're here to receive. They've been in your shoes or shoes very similar to yours at some point, most likely very recently. Take advantage of that opportunity to ask them questions. Speaking of questions, raising your hand and asking a question is not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you don't know something. It's a sign of strength. It's a sign of curiosity. It means that you want to learn something. Professionals that are here to help you, they don't expect you to have the answers. Why would you be here, right? Why would they be here to give you answers to things you already know? This is a partnership. They're here to provide you advice that they either receive themselves or they wish they would have gotten. The only way they can do that is if you ask questions. So raise your hand, take advantage of this opportunity. And lastly, showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful things human beings can do for one another. That means saying thank you to the folks that come and speak with you, saying thank you to our panel. No one here is getting paid. Everyone here is volunteering. So show thanks. They're here for you, okay? And if you take that approach of gratitude with you in your career, you're going to find really innate ability to build relationships, and you're going to find that you're going to be happier as well. So say thank you. It's the best way to start a conversation as well. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We're going to turn it over to our panel. Thank you for your patience, panel. Hopefully that was, how did I do on time? Damn, I went longer than I thought to. Well, thank you so much. I want to start with Aaliyah. So Aaliyah, there's a couple kind of intro questions. Will you introduce yourself, name, hometown, what you currently do, and then your first internship or an internship that's most notable for you?
Yeah. So as Zach mentioned, my name is Leah Mitchell, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. Currently live in Charlotte, North Carolina. In terms of what I currently do, I am Associate Strategy Director at GMR Marketing, and sort of sit currently in a hybrid role where I do partially strategy work on an account, as well as DCNS work, as well as so client consulting and services, managing an Olympic top sponsorship with a new sponsor. So lately it's just been a bit crazy since it's a bit of a new one for me. But for the last 2 years, I've been working on another Olympic account, a bit more traditional, and now getting someone back into the Olympic space. So that's been exciting. And let's see, what was that last question? I think it was.
You've had about like 15 internships at some point. What was
yes.
a notable internship you'd like to talk about?
Notable and first are two different ones. I'd say my most notable one, if I had to give two, just because I might. My first one was like in middle school, which I don't know if you could consider an internship, but it was for UNC TV, and I would dress up in like the costumes for like, because Curious George, and go to like kids events. They shouldn't have called that an internship. And then my probably like top one was the one I did in college at the Charlotte Hornets, which sort of got me introduced into sports. So.
Leah also has the proud distinction of being a former student of mine, which is why she said yes to this. So thank you, Leah. Appreciate it. And she actually designed the SBC logo as well, Sports Biz logo. Fun fact. Jalen, how about you?
Yep. So how's it Wright doing? My name is Jalen Mitchell. I'm currently a senior, graduating senior at Howard University. I'm from Philadelphia. And right now I intern with the Washington football team in sponsorship. I'm working in both sponsorship activations and strategy. I'm in the amazing Washington football team office right now. So excited to be here. My first internship I had senior year of high school. I worked with the Pete and Jameer Nelson Foundation. So anybody that knows basketball should know Jameer Nelson, really good point guard out of Chester, PA. And yeah, took the league by storm, played for the Orlando Magic, got to work for his foundation during my senior year of high school. And probably my most notable internship this summer, I worked for the National Football League in football operations. I worked in football strategy and business development team this summer. I think I hit all the points. Right now I live in Washington, D.C. And yeah, like I said, I'm a senior at Howard.
Crushed it. You didn't mention that you're an Eagles fan working for the Washington football team, but that's okay.
It's supposed to be a secret for the next couple months, and
Sorry.
then I can wear it out loud again.
Iris, how about you?
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Iris Wright. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, though I am currently living in Raleigh, North Carolina, because I am a graduating senior at NC State University, majoring in communication. My first and only internship was with NASCAR last summer, where I interned in their youth and multicultural marketing department.
And we got to get some hearts going. Iris was recognized as Intern of the Year at NASCAR. Let's give her some love here. Come on. This is an award-winning panel, guys. And then Kate, we'll close with you, and then I have a follow-up question immediately after your introduction.
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. Kate McKinnon, the less famous non-Saturday Night Live version. I am in the Philadelphia area, right outside of Philadelphia. I am an Eagles fan, so your secret's safe with me, Jalen. And I'm currently the head of HR for Playfly Sports, so I'm very excited to be here. I've had a couple of internships, but the one that changed the trajectory of my career was when I was a senior in college. I wanted to get into criminal profiling, and I interned at a prison.
That's a lot of wow. So look at how interesting this panel is, guys. This is an interesting panel. We have child labor, Leah, like interning at like 10 years old, breaking laws, and Kate in jail, in prison. So Kate, I want to stay with you. You are on the other side of the equation. You're the head of HR for an organization that hires lots of interns, lots of job seekers. You've got the keys to the car, if you will, right? So I think it's important maybe as we start to give our students the cheat codes to securing the internship and leveraging the internship to understand the other side of the equation. So as an organization or as a head of HR, what is the role of internships to that organization? Like why do they exist? And what are you all looking for when you're looking at those roles?
That's a great question. And I would say that it's different depending on who you're interning with or what the role is that you're looking to do as an intern. The best companies that have internship programs really have a defined strategy around how they're going to use their interns and what they're going to teach their interns. Because I think that there are times where interns will go to an organization and they get all of the jobs that nobody that is working for the organization full time wants to do, right? Like the horror stories of getting the coffee and making copies. And while that is all encompassing in your job in general, it shouldn't be all that interns are doing. So in my mind, internships are used to vet somebody for future employment. It's a great way to test drive, if you will, an employee, understand their work ethic, understand their relationship abilities, how they interact with your team, what team they tend to gravitate towards, what their skill set is. And what I would say is that an internship from an intern perspective really should be figuring out whether this is the path or not the path. Both serve a purpose. And so from an employer's perspective, I'm looking for somebody that doesn't just call and say, hey, I need an internship. I need so-and-so number of credits because this is what's going to satisfy my requirements for graduation. I'm looking for somebody that comes and says, I want to work in sports. I want to work in your industry. I'm excited about what you're doing. This is my goal. This is what I'd like to accomplish in an internship. Are you able to make that happen? Or if not, what are you offering your interns? There's definitely a give and take and an interview process that, interns should be engaged in too, because you want to make sure that you're picking the right company for you. So it's a loaded question. I have so many answers to that, but I would say that initially it's really just looking for somebody that could be a potential full-time employer or employee for the company going forward.
Really great, Kate. And I think, when we did the prep call, I use this analogy, and maybe it's wrong or inappropriate, but it's like your summer fling, right? Like you start dating someone during the summer, you're trying to like test it, see if this is like worthwhile. And it goes both ways before you want to commit to a longer relationship or like a full-time job, right? And I think that trust or that vetting is not maybe something that students think of, but organizations don't want to invest a lot of time, a lot of resources towards an unknown. So they're giving you a trial run. So which I guess with that in mind, Kate, does that mean that ideally organizations would hire their interns full time if it works out?
Absolutely. I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, we're always looking for bench strength, which is basically from a sports perspective, the people on the bench that can fill in or jump in when you have a space available or somebody is moved into a position full time. And so you want to be able to stack that as much as you possibly can. What I will also say is that typically employers are not going to let a good employee go. So a lot of times, even if they don't have a position, they'll create a position if you're the perfect person for the company. And so it's really an opportunity for you to get a feel for what the company does, what they value, how they treat their employees. You can really tell a lot during your time as an intern, just as much as the employer can tell about you as an intern. So it's very much a give and take and a test run.
Thank you very much, Kate. So Iris, I'm going to come to you and Jalen. So we understand that this is about more than credits. Like we understand the why, right? But how did you get your internship? Like tactically, we've got a lot of internship seekers here. How did you get your internship at NASCAR? And advice that you'd give to students looking for an internship?
So, of course, I had my feelers out on different platforms looking for internships, seeing what was available. Fortunately, my sister, she interned with NASCAR like almost a decade ago. And I kind of knew about her experience with that. I'd been to a race or two. And for some reason, she saw the application was open and she was just like, hey, NASCAR, they have their internship open again. And I was like, really? I hadn't really followed up with them since then to see like what their program was about and things like that. So I looked on a few different platforms, looked on LinkedIn at who was above the internship. I saw who was what initiatives they were doing throughout the decade that I hadn't been like associating with them. And I was kind of seeing like what was going on. And then I saw like what positions were open and what internship positions were open on like Glassdoor, and even just a simple Google search would take you to that. And I applied for 2, which was communications and marketing. And I got denied from one and accepted in the other after an after an interview process. So it was a lot of looking around to kind of get to that space where I actually got it.
Awesome. Congratulations. And clearly you succeeded. Jalen, how about you? I mean, I guess everyone probably wants to work at the NFL. How do you think you're able to get that internship?
Yeah, I definitely would attribute that internship to connections and just being open to looking for opportunities. So with the NFL, I did a program, an externship program with them throughout the 2020-2021 school year. It was a program that they offered to HBCU students that another friend referred me for, and I signed up and got involved. Through that program, I was able to get a mentor, go to lunch and learns and different things from other individuals that work for the league. And just they gave a whole lot of different opportunities to the students that were part of that program. And in that, I made a lot of connections around the league, both with young professionals that were already working there, my mentor, and a couple of seasoned veterans, let's call them, who work for the league, and was able to help leverage that into an internship position. Of course, I had to continue to work to make sure my experiences and resume look nice and everything. It's not just something that people are always going to hand out, but connections really help, I think, especially being aware of what positions are open. And then, there are thousands of applications to these big name companies, people who are interested in sports, people who are not interested in sports. Just hearing NFL, NBA, NASCAR, there's going to be thousands of people who throw their hat into the ring. So especially in that first round, it's really helpful to be able to know somebody who's going to advocate for you from the inside, to know your character, to know your work ethic, to know that you're somebody that's worth being invested into, as Kate mentioned a little bit earlier. So I think that really helped me. And then, I went through the application process, interview process. I also applied for 2 positions, made it to a second round interview for one of them, but then the football strategy team picked me as their intern for the summer, and it was a super great opportunity. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thanks, Jalen. Yeah, and we talk about networking, we talk about people. Like that's what we would call social capital, right? Like having people that are pouring into you, that will help open doors for you, that will knock on doors for you, that will advocate for you. And I think that's something that we try to talk to all our students about. Like, you don't need to do it yourself. In fact, no one does it themselves. Everyone's providing support, and that's not taking any shine away from what you'll be able to accomplish. But people here are going to help. Like the people that are coming to this event, everyone on this panel is here because they want to help you, right? So taking them up on it is all you need to do. And I think the second part's actually kind of interesting about both your stories is you got rejected from one, but you got another, which I think is really interesting. Like it's rejection, but also success. And you put yourself in a position to be able to do that, as opposed to saying, well, I won't get it. Like you didn't get what you thought you were going to get, but you got something else. So kudos to you for putting yourselves out there. So Leah, I want to talk to you about one specific internship experience of yours. So you interned with the Charlotte Hornets after you had finished up your career on TV as a child actress. Walk me through that internship experience, the decision you made to take it, because I think it required some sacrifice, and then how that internship experience has helped you in your career now. I mean, less than 5 years ago, right?
Yeah. And so that internship, I think, came up over a winter break through some great connections that I had in school. And, up to then, I had done other internships. I think at that point I was in my sophomore year. And so I had a little bit of experience, but this one was special. The Hornets, I definitely liked what it stood for. It was in corporate social responsibility, which I found really interesting, as I'd only done internships previously in the nonprofit sector of work, because I thought that's really, what I wanted to go to school for. But when I looked at the details of the internship, once I had sort of started working my way through the process, I realized that it started, based off semesters, and at the time my school was in trimesters. So I realized I'd be in classes for a portion of that internship, and sort of had to come to, okay, what am I going to do with this? Do I want to take this opportunity, or do I want to, obviously stick with my class load? And it did, require some compromise. Pat Stack happened to be one of my professors at the time. But I went to my professors and I said, hey, here I have this opportunity. I'm a decent student. Like, I am attentive in class. I always get my work done. like, I want to focus on this and I will still do the coursework, but I will also not physically be in class. And for, one of my classes, I sort of had to take the L on that one, and, didn't have the best, score. But in, my others, people just sort of understood. And I think, people appreciate the initiative when they can tell you really want something. I mean, even as a sophomore, I technically wasn't allowed to get credit for it. So I had to go to someone, in the organization and say, hey, I know I'm a sophomore, but I really want to do this internship for this reason. And sort of, I think having that backing to know why I wanted something and how I wanted something, it, ended up in the result. And I don't regret it whatsoever. I do think it was challenging. I mean, there were times where I would, I was living in Uptown at the time, but I would go to the Spectrum Center at like 6 a.m. and I'd work for 3 hours, and then I'd go to class, and then I'd come back, and then I would still, if I had a game that night, I'd be at the Spectrum Center until like 11, 12 p.m. But it was worth it for that time because I knew on the outs of it, I would have the experience that I was looking for, which was what was important to me at the time. So
You clearly made the right decision, even if it meant not coming to my class. Small world, the woman that hired Leah as an intern was an intern that I had helped get an internship where I had previously worked at GMR. So like this stuff comes full circle. If it seems like worlds are colliding, it's because that's how the world works, everyone. Kate, I want to ask you one question. I want to pull up a poll for the students for us all to weigh in on. But while I'm doing that, when you're interviewing a full-time employee candidate, let's call it entry-level candidate, what are you looking for in terms of how they're telling the story about their internship experience?
I think, this applies to internship experience or no internship experience. But what I'm looking for is somebody that has passion, has energy, has drive. Skill set is, especially for an entry-level position, is never my number one. I don't care if you've had experience doing what we're hiring for. If you have drive, initiative, you're competitive, you are teachable, you're interested in things, that's what I'm looking for. So for me, a little bit from an example and storytelling perspective, talking about stories where you've, faced adversity, or Leah describing, having to make a difficult decision and why she made that decision and her thought process around it. Even if it doesn't work out the way that you want it to, what lessons did you learn from that? And so I think that for me, it's really just getting to know somebody. What makes somebody tick? What drives them? Who influences you? Whether it's a professor, whether it's a parent, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a teacher. What are the things that are going to help you be successful at our company? How are we going to be able to motivate you to want to work for us? And so those are all the things that I'm looking for. In terms of, specifics regarding an internship, what are the things that you do day in, day out? What does your day look like is a common question that I'll ask somebody. Tell me about your day. What do you do when you get to work? And I'm looking for a cohesive thought process, not completely scattered, having an idea as to, who you're talking to during the day, who you have relationships with, who do you collaborate with, along with the tasks that you're doing. I also look for we statements as opposed to I do this, I do that. Statements around, my team and I do this, or in a meeting, we talked about this. That says to me that you want to work with other people, that you're able to collaborate. So I know that's a lot of examples, but I'm looking for a lot of things. Sometimes it's very hard to put it into words, but it's really around initiative, drive, somebody's teachability.
Yeah, maybe Jalen, you guys got an internship. Is there anything that comes to mind that you think helped you get that, in the interview process, that helped you get that role? And then Iris, you're next.
I think Kate said a passion and drive for what you're going to be doing is important. So my team that I worked on this summer works heavily with HBCUs, and I go to an HBCU at Howard, and I'm really passionate about working with really just marginalized people groups, and Black people, African Americans, and the United States really fall into that category. So I knew I was really passionate about the role, and even when I didn't have the exact skill set or experience for things that were on the job description, I think that passion and really drive that I had to do this job helped me stand out in the process. And actually, today I got to have a lunch and learn meeting with Jason Wright, who's the president of the Washington football team. And he just kind of said the same thing, that it's not always about the experience or skill level that you have, but if you're somebody that a manager feels like they can depend on, somebody that a manager feels like wants to learn and grow in this role, you have a better opportunity of getting the job that's out there for you. So just having that passion and drive and be able to communicate those things, using honesty, and really not trying to shy away from what you want to do. We all have dreams, we all have goals, and make those things apparent in that interview process will help you stand out in the role, or stand out in the process of getting that role.
Iris, how about you?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Just having your passion, speaking through your passion to your answers to all the questions they ask, and like translating your experience to them. And also just being authentic, like not just saying what you think they want to hear, but really just showing you and what you know and what you do and what you can do, and put forward into that role. And they'll really understand like, hey, this person, they know how to apply their experiences, or they may not know exactly what we want, but they have the capacity to learn what we want and actually mold into doing that. So just being able to show your willingness and put yourself into that. And I think they really enjoy hearing that.
Can I add something
We
real
do.
quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Jalen.
I was just gonna say, I know sometimes it was discouraging for me, right? You look at a job application or internship application, it says so and so experience, or 1 to 3 years experience, or this degree, that degree required. And some stuff is very technical, like you have to have it. But when you really think about it, you can't have 1 to 3 years experience without being able to get experience. So it'll be impossible for anybody new to enter the workforce if people just look for those exact boxes. So you really do have to be willing to say, this is something that I haven't done, this is something that I have done, but express that you're willing to learn those type of things. Is what Kate said, is that's really important and helps you stand out, because a lot of roles, you can learn a lot of stuff on YouTube these days. So I would rather take somebody who is willing to put in that extra work to understand what they need to do to communicate this to me in a meeting tomorrow, rather than somebody who's like, yeah, I haven't done this before, so I'm probably not the best for the role. You need to be confident and just share and show that you're willing to work and willing to go the extra mile to make up for that lack of knowledge. And that goes a really, really long way.
And that's the case not even just in internships, but just in the workforce in general. You can look up, there are so many studies that show specifically women tend to not apply for jobs unless they have met every single criteria that's listed on a job description. And I can tell you, I have never in any role I've ever taken had every single qualification. As a matter of fact, there are things still, even in this job, that I know nothing about. But I'm interested and I want to learn, and I'm willing to say when I don't know. And I think that goes a long way, because you could have somebody that knows every single thing in and out, but has no desire to learn and doesn't communicate well and doesn't collaborate. And they're not going to be as successful as somebody that doesn't know all the things, but is open to listening and likes to collaborate and relies on people that do know all the things. I am not a financial person by a long stretch, but I surround myself with people that can do that stuff because it's not my strength. And so as you grow in your career, you're able to outsource things that you're not good at, right? But when you start in your career, acknowledging that you're not going to have every single thing on every single job description, and that's okay, because there might be things on the job description that you can bring to the role that they never even thought about when they were writing the job description.
So, Leah, before we go to the poll, you've gotten promoted a lot in a very short period of time. Like, you've had a lot of success. I'm sure sometimes you feel like I'm doing things I don't really know how to do. How did you find the courage to apply for some of these jobs, or maybe you weren't technically qualified? And what would be your advice to students that maybe are having the same concerns that Jalen talked about?
Yeah, I think, obviously imposter syndrome is always going to be there. But it's really knowing how to communicate with yourself and know yourself. Like on those days where you start to feel like, oh crap, what's coming back at me? Like you have to really know how to check in and be like, no, wait, I deserve to be here, and mind yourself. I mean, something as simple as when I got my last promotion, I got a couple of emails, messages, videos, and I wrote down every single compliment someone wrote or said about me. And I have sticky notes that I keep for those moments where I'm like, crap, who the heck am I? And I think that's super important, but also, like, we've been talking about, show up to the conversations as yourself and let them do the rest. Like, I show up as myself, and that's how I ended up in, a strategy role when I didn't have strategy experience. Because I do strategy freelance, but I never thought like, oh, okay, I could bring that into like my full-time work as well. But all I did was show someone some work I did, and they were like, well, this is full strategy. And it sort of got me to where I am. So like, you just keep doing what you feel like is pulling you, what you feel passionate about, what you're excited about. And someone's going to see that spark and be like, okay, I'm really interested in see how I can grow that. Because you do have to sort of trust, again, in that sense, the community that's around you, that they'll support you there.
And I think one thing I really love that you said, Leah, like whenever I find myself not knowing if I can do something or having imposter syndrome, like, I don't know, like starting a nonprofit or putting on this event, I think about the people that have like seen something in me that maybe sometimes I can't see in myself. And that really helps me keep going. So surround yourself with people that provide you that advice and those thoughts. And early on, I can remember very vividly, like I was having a hard time with something. I didn't think I could do it. My boss looked at me and said, you can do this. You're going to be great. And I was like, all right, I guess I will be. Like, I can do this. So surround yourself with people to provide that environment. I know that seems crazy, but that's kind of how I tick. So I had a poll question, and John, are you able to see the poll? I wanted to insert you. So John, we asked the question, should you take an unpaid internship for credits only? And how are those numbers looking, John?
16 people voted yes.
Yeah, so I think 63% of people said you should take an unpaid internship for credits only. So very controversial. For the record, we at SBC are against unpaid internships. We think that they are socioeconomically exclusive. And if you're working, you should get paid. And we only promote internships and job opportunities that are paid. So it's important to know for our audience. Kate, I guess, or anyone, what do you guys think about the unpaid versus paid debate in terms of internships? Maybe starting with you, Kate.
I think it depends on if it's your dream place to work or not. In my mind, I have taken internships that were unpaid. I have also, what's that?
Was the prison unpaid?
No, I got paid for that.
Oh,
and I got credit. They were like, we need this girl to come back. We really need some interns here. But I have taken unpaid internships because I was afraid that I wouldn't get one that was paid. It was more of a stress reaction as opposed to a strategic reaction. I have also taken jobs and offered myself for jobs when I had just wanted to work for a person that I thought was inspirational and said, hire me. I don't care what I have to do. I'll do anything. And I relocated to work for this individual without knowing or having a job or knowing what I was doing. So I think there's always a place for taking something that's unpaid if it's going to get you closer to your goal. But I would be very selective with those. Likewise, I wouldn't take an internship that had nothing to do with what I wanted to do just because it was paying a lot of money, because at the end of the day, it's your time and your experience, and that's valuable.
Iris, how about you, Iris? Like, I know you just went through this process. Were you looking at unpaid and paid internships?
I was primarily looking at paid internships because this was going to kind of take place of the job that I would have for the summer. So that was a big factor for me. But I do feel like when it comes to choosing an internship, definitely look at the pay if it is not something you're wholly doing for the experience. So like if you say want to be a veterinarian and you're taking an internship with some broadcasting company, then you should probably get like a paid internship there, because if your main goal is something that's totally different, then that's like, it's more of a job, something like kind of away from what you're doing, though it is a pretty good experience. But if you're with your local animal hospital, then maybe that would be something that could be considered better, or not better, but a good option to be unpaid, because you are getting that valuable experience for what could pay you in the future. It's like that payment can come through other forms than just financial compensation. So it's something to consider.
Leah, what do you think? I know that your Hornets internship was not paid.
No, it wasn't. I always like to say that it was unpaid, but the time was priceless. No, I think that as someone that had to like work my and like push myself through college by working and paying my own tuition, I would say just like it's okay if you get to a point where you have an internship and you're like, this is my dream, but I cannot afford it, to take a step back and reevaluate. Like, don't feel like it's your fault somehow that you can't take that opportunity. But to also not be opposed to like maybe you have to like go somewhere else. Maybe you have to go to Texas for some reason and like find a place to stay, and it is a paid internship. Like you might have to do some extra hurdles, but if it's really what you want, then overall, if you can make it work, you should just make it work. But obviously, it's easier said than done. So.
Jalen, what do you think?
Yeah, so I also have had unpaid internships and paid internships. And I think it's really important to examine, like everybody's saying, your why for doing the position when you're thinking about, the pay scale. I do agree with what you said. Like, it's really not socioeconomically fair to have unpaid internships, in my opinion. People say that, the connections, the time, the experience is what you are getting paid for. But especially, I think Kate touched on it, like for women and people of color, is something that I think is often difficult for us to advocate for ourselves and advocate and really understand how to advocate for our worth. And I think that's something that you should be able to be taught from an internship and professional experience, because that's something that you have to learn in the professional space. I really have no idea how to negotiate a contract or figure out how much I should get paid for my work. And that's something that I struggle with a lot, because I do a lot of different volunteer and freelance work and things like that. So that's something I'm still trying to work through. So I think it is important for us, as students, to understand that the time, experience, and things that we do are actually valuable, and there is real monetary value, not just valuable, philosophically, but there's monetary value to the things that we do. We need to be cognitive or cognizant, whatever the word is, of that fact when it comes to looking for internship positions. But at the same time, I would not say it's a total yes and no answer, because like I said, I have had unpaid internships and they've really served an important purpose. My first internship during college was for the athletic department at Howard University, and I believe that experience not only gave me really great connections, but just helped me set me on a trajectory where I really believed in myself, believed in my abilities, believed that I could uh, really do great things in this industry. Without that internship experience, I don't think I would have this same mindset. So there is really valuable payoff at times, but I'm much more a fan of getting paid for internship. At this point in my career, if somebody offered me an internship and it wasn't paid, I would have to say no, because I know the money that I'm going to be bringing into this company uh, is much. I should be getting paid for that, and if I'm not, I'm appreciative of the opportunity, but I have to support, my life. I have to support where I'm going to live. I have to really know my value, so it'll be something I have to turn down.
The other thing I would add to that, just to jump in, is it's also important why the organization isn't paying for the internship. If it's a nonprofit and there's an organization, if it's an athletic department and they don't pay because they don't have the funds and you're going to get a lot of experience, that's a little bit different than a larger company that isn't paying because they're not invested in the success of an internship program. And so I think the pay piece also contributes to the buy-in of the organization to making sure that an intern is successful. So that isn't a bad question to ask, or to just research a little bit. If you're looking at an internship that is unpaid, what is the financial situation of the company? Do they routinely not pay interns because they look at it as a stepping stone? Like, what's the rationale behind it?
Yeah, and just kind of put a bow on this. Then I want to ask John. I think he's got a question for you guys. So, the SBC advice is we're against unpaid internships. For the record, we pay all of our interns, and if we can afford it, then professional sports teams can afford it. So there's that. The second step is give yourselves options. So if you're not sure whether or not you want to take a paid or unpaid, give yourself an option for each, and then make the decision yourself. And I think that goes back to what Jalen's talked about, what Leah's talked about, is like, and Kate and Iris, and advocate for yourself, create opportunities for yourself, and then weigh your options, whether it's take the internship or going to class like Leah, or taking the paid versus the unpaid. The people that get ahead are the ones that give themselves options. Then you can make decisions, say this is worth the investment of 3 months of not getting paid. Because the inverse of that is that, let's say a good internship pays you $5,000 for the summer, maybe, like in the grand scheme of things, is that $5,000 going to help you make $5 million, right? Are you going to really care about that in 10 years? Probably not. So if you get the type of opportunity that you can't pass up, to Kate's point, maybe don't move across the country and follow this person that you're super enthused by. I'm joking. That's obviously worked out well for you, Kate. But give yourself options is what I would recommend. Keep all things open and do talk about it and do ask about it. And Jalen, you're going to feel much more comfortable, Iris feel much more comfortable asking for someone that's unpaid to pay you when you have a paid offer in your back pocket from someone else, right? That's where power comes in, okay? But yes, we do think people should be paid for their time. John, you had a question?
So we are talking about, giving ourselves options. What would you give to people that, they apply to multiple internships and they're getting the offers, but how would you walk them through the process of when they're rejecting a company that they're not going to work at? Like, how do you expect them to reject that and continue to manage that relationship as well?
Jalen.
I could start with this. So you guys know I'm still a college student, so I'm kind of still walking through this process, but I had my first experience with this. So hopefully I handled it right, but I'm just going to share my experience. So this school year, this semester, I was offered 2 different internship positions. So the one that I have, and then I was offered one from a different company. And then actually going back to the last question, they were both paid, but one, was a monthly stipend that would come to a little bit or a lot less money than the one that I currently have. And I had to weigh the options and figure out, what the best investment would be for myself. I don't live on campus. I have to pay rent, things like that. So I really had to take all those factors into account. So for the internship that I turned down, I had an interview for the internship and got to meet a couple of people throughout the process. So really what I chose to do was be very transparent with the people in that company, transparent about the situation that I was in and really, this is the first time I had to actually practice self-advocacy. I had a conversation with the hiring manager who I was speaking with and said, I have this offer and I have the offer from you all. I'm really interested in the company and working for you guys. But this is my situation financially. I need to, worry about that as well as this experience. If you guys are able to boost this pay or have any flexibility with that, I would definitely love to continue to explore options with your organization. But if not, I'm going to have to pass on this job, and I would love to continue to keep this relationship open and talk about future opportunities. But this is just what the case is for this semester. They were extremely open, very receptive. So the company actually similarly really works to invest in people in sports. So they're very focused on helping young professionals grow. So I think that was an added bonus. They were really comfortable with those conversations and offered me guidance as I was going through that process. So it really turned out positively. But yeah, for me, just a little summary, I think trying to be transparent and honest is always the best policy. I'm a person that's very high on authenticity. And yeah, just list out what's going on. Don't be coy. Don't be halfway in, halfway out, because then messages are going to get mixed. People are going to be confused. And I think ultimately you're not going to come to the most peaceful and best conclusion unless you're really honest about what's going on.
Okay, if you're on the other side of that conversation, you're okay with it? You understand?
100%. I would agree with every single thing you just said. Authenticity is the most important. Just be honest and say, this other opportunity is better for me for XYZ. They're paying me more. It's closer to my house. It's more in line with what I want to do. But I would love to keep the relationship open because you impressed me a lot as a company. I really value our relationship. Would you be open and do those things? So keep that relationship nurtured because you never know where your next opportunity is going to come. And the world is small. People talk. I have run into so many people. I have some great stories of people that I've run into where a situation could have gone very, very sideways based on how a relationship ended, an employment relationship. But it didn't, because it's important to keep those relationships there. So yes, always be authentic. And to your point, don't be coy. Don't try to play each other against each other. Like, that never works out well. So totally agree.
I wanted to come to Iris. This question came from Brandon. Thanks for sharing, Brandon. We talked about this a little bit in the prep call. Iris, like, you come from NC State, you're thrust into this environment with NASCAR. What were the biggest differences in the professional environment, and what did you learn from that experience?
Probably the biggest differences between going from the classroom to the office space with all these professionals in an industry that I had no experience with was the fact that they just had so much more experience, like, in their careers, let alone that company in itself. So they're bringing a lot more things to the tables that I didn't really have to bring there yet. So, like, in the classroom at NC State, I'm kind of used to being the person who just, like, answers the questions if nobody else is answering, or like I have this input or this insight, and I'm kind of like, I'm just that person. I've always been kind of that person. But that shifted when you're in a workplace environment where everybody else knows everything and you're the new person, and you're still expected to kind of take that step forward, but you're kind of like, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I get comfortable actually doing that with these people? And I think it really just comes down to first knowing your worth there. So knowing, well, I was chosen to be here for a reason, so let me show them why. And also understanding that you might be learning from them, but they're also learning from you. So you have something to offer in that space, and to just be cognizant of that and move forward in confidence, knowing that I'm here for a reason. Let me share what I know, but I'm still going to ask questions because I don't know everything. So just being open in that space and learning to be confident in this place, because they're ready for you to speak. You just have to step up to the plate and do that.
Awesome answer. Brandon, how was that? Good?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Leah, I want to come to you on a similar topic. Like, you're working your way up the flagpole, and you're probably seeing young people come into the organization. What were the initial challenges that you had to work through as you transitioned from college to career, and where do you see some of the younger folks with GMR struggling?
I would say something close to what Iris was speaking on, which is like, when you have like such like small projects that you're being given and you first start somewhere, a lot of people take that as like, they don't value me. I'm not doing the cool stuff yet. Like, what is this? And I challenged it by sort of taking those things and, okay, say I, like, for example, had a report I had to do every single week about all the Olympic news that was happening. Well, this was a white form document, just like a simple, like, someone typed it out previously. And I took it and I made an interactive PDF that just, used some of my design knowledge, etc. And to me, that felt like something small, but then showed other people like, oh, I didn't even know that this could be something that looked good. So, like, to take all of the opportunities you can to make whatever you're doing and put a spin on it that only you can. So whether it be from a design perspective, oh, I'm really data analytics heavy, so like I could bring this, in from this perspective, because you're showing them, one, not just what you do, what you can do. And then it gave people more of a reason to be like, oh, will you actually look at this document? How could this be better? And then before I knew it, before I left my last, account, our clients were asking me to create visuals for them for different things, just because they knew that I could. And, sometimes you'll get pushback. Sometimes people will be like, oh, no, that's not the way that we've done that before. And it's sort of knowing when to fight the fight and when not to. But I think if you take those chances and you always are looking for a way not to be better than anyone else, not to like stand out just to stand out, but to actually improve the work, then you're probably going to lead yourself into something that's more positive for you in your career.
Very well done. Mary Grace had a question here about, and maybe Kate, this can come to you, like, things to watch out for when you're looking for internships. Any red flags?
Gosh, yes, there are tons of red flags, but I would say, as more so than red flags, I would say answers to questions that you should ask, and then try to determine whether the answer is what you want. So one thing might be, how do you evaluate your intern's success? How do you evaluate that I'm doing what you want me to do. That'll give you some insight into, do you have one person that is like responsible for you, right? Do you have one contact person in the organization? That's really important, because if not, you don't have this sort of one source of truth, and you can get pulled in a lot of different directions. So I would say not having a person to guide you internally in the organization would be what I would consider to be a red flag. Not being paid for an internship absolutely could be a red flag. Again, I would take all the caveats that I sort of pointed out earlier, but it could be. If an organization's never had an intern before, might be great, because they might be looking to implement the program. But if they've never had an intern before, you might want to ask a little bit more around that. Why not? Or, what are you looking to do or accomplish with this intern? And then if you do have credits or things that you have to fulfill from a school perspective, who is going to make sure that you fulfill those? So if you have requirements, making sure that you have somebody, because if you don't, then, are you really meeting objectives? Or so you can ask, when you're looking for an internship, what are you hoping to gain from me working there? Or what are some cool things that I could do that maybe I've never seen before? Or what are some problems that I could help you solve? Or who are some people do you think that I would like to be introduced to during my internship? So just their investment is so critical. If you don't have somebody at the prison, I will say, they were very invested in me. They showed me every single aspect. I had one person that maybe because they had to, but they walked me around everywhere. They were very invested. And for all of the reasons that I didn't decide to go into that field of work, they were very invested in the interns that worked there. And that can make or break your internship.
Yeah, everyone wants to feel like someone cares about them, and that their work is valued.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we all want, whether you're an intern or your CEO. So that's really critical. So really appreciate that, Kate. There was a similar question that had come from Noah, but it was very similar in nature, and we are coming up on time. Jalen, you've got a couple questions in the chat. We can connect you with these folks afterwards if you aren't able to address them here. I wanted to say thank you all. We started with gratitude. We're going to finish with gratitude, and then also provide you maybe an opportunity for maybe one last insight you would share. So, Jalen, go back a year ago, 2 years ago. Let's assume that you found out about SBC and you're in this event. Like, what do you wish you would have known that you'd like to share with your peers here related to internships? And then we'll go to Leah next, and then Iris, then Kate. So you guys have time to think.
Okay, perfect. Well, first of all, anybody that has questions for me, just look me up on LinkedIn, or you can hit me up. I think there's a chat function. I'm gonna put my email in here too.
I'll drop your LinkedIn in the chat function, buddy.
Okay, LinkedIn works. Yeah, just message me on LinkedIn. Open to talk to anybody about my experiences. But yeah, just what I wish I had known. I think just sitting in this panel and hearing all the insights from everybody, it's just like, I appreciate all this knowledge, but the biggest thing to me, I think I would say, is treat every experience, college, internships, relationships, like an investment. If you're getting paid, I think somebody said earlier, if you're getting paid $5,000 for a summer, is that $5,000 just going to lead to $5,000, or is it going to be a step to leading to $5 million in the future? I think when you're thinking of internship opportunities, you need to be thinking of them in that way. And that's going to inform you on how you think of things like your pay. It's going to inform you how you think of how you're treated in the office, how much value that they give you, even in the types of roles and jobs that you're doing. I think I'm much more open to doing things that I might see as little or minor roles, or even things, oh, these are too easy for me, this is beneath me. If I see it as an investment, I know I'm doing these little things so I can do something bigger. So don't just do things to go through the motions. Don't just do things to satisfy a requirement. See it as an investment. That could take you to an internship that's outside your field. That could take you and make you move to somewhere just to be around this professional that you think can help grow your career. But just, be thinking of things in terms of investment, and that's going to help you make the best decisions and the best investments to get where you need to go.
Awesome work, Jalen. Thank you so much. Leah?
I would probably say, internships are such a valuable time. It's one of the few times I can look back in my career when I was in a space where I could truly take a step back without truly being in the cog and see how people interact, see how people are treating each other, how they speak about each other. And I think as I look back on that, once you're thrown into work, you're thrown into work. You're in an organization, you're just trying to figure out what to do and how to do your job. So really take the opportunity to do that, to analyze that and work with it, because I think the people that I've seen grow the most in my organization have been social players. If you watch Survivor, it's one of my favorite shows. We always talk about social players, and those are the people that, definitely succeed. And I would say part of that is take whatever makes you different and really celebrate it. And, obviously add that professional touch, but don't feel the need to lose any aspects of yourself. If you're attached to a couple different marginalized groups, like use those pieces of yourself and make sure that you're getting paid for it as well. Like if you are going to help with diversity initiatives, get paid for that. If you're going to help with, helping get more women in sports, like get paid for that. Like make sure you use all those pieces of yourself, those pieces of your identity that you hold true to you, and you leverage them for one, the greater good, but also for yourself. It's okay to think like, okay, how can I do this for my community? How can I be great representation? But also, how can I be valued for who I am? Because that's really going to help out other people in the future.
Very, very well said, Aaliyah. Thank you so much. Iris?
I will say that you guys probably heard it a lot of times during this thing. You're probably going to hear a lot of times in professional space and other similar panels like this. But I cannot stress enough, networking is so important. Like when you're in these internships, when you're in school and other jobs, these connections that you make during this time can not only impact you during your internship or during your job, but it can impact you way beyond it. Like the slide that we saw earlier where Patrick had his first job, referring to his first internship, and someone he met from there influenced his fourth job. Like these things can kind of step down in ways that we don't even know about it. So making these connections and just building the courage to reach out to these people who are, a lot of them are more than willing to hear from you and give you that advice and just feed into you as a professional. It's super important. But not only make these connections, but nurture these connections moving forward, because there's really no benefit in me meeting with somebody in March and then never talking to them ever again. Like if I want like a job next year, they're gonna be like, I heard of you once, but you're just coming back now to ask for a job. Like what? Like what's going on here? So just like authentically nurture these connections and keep these things alive, because you don't know how impactful this could be the more you move forward, and it can really just help you out a lot in the long run.
Love it, Iris. Kate, try to follow that.
Wow, I can't. You guys, so I have so many thoughts, but you took a lot of them, so that's great. So what I would say is two things. One, every single thing you do is a learning experience. I have learned some of the best lessons from some of the worst situations. So even when you're in it, if it feels like I'm never going to get through this, I promise you it's for a reason, and you will take lessons about what not to do, who you don't want to become, how you don't want to treat people. Those things tend to hit harder than some of the real positive things that happen in your life. So don't ever look at anything as being for nothing. Everything is for something. And then the only other thing I would say is that every single person that you see on the panel, just do what they're doing, because this is the best example of interns and perspectives that I have seen in a very long time. And so reach out to me if you'd like, connect with me on LinkedIn, but reach out to the people on this panel because they are superstars. So yeah.
Kate, you're a superstar too.
Oh, so are you.
I really can't tell you how much we appreciate this, guys. And I think to kind of put a bow on the top, we talked about at the beginning, but it's really like central to what we as an organization do and what we believe is this concept of social capital, that putting yourself in a position around the right people and contributing to that, and that no one needs to do it alone. In fact, it's not fun to do alone, and no one does it alone, right? Everyone has some equity in your journey. And the beauty of that is you can have equity in someone else's journey, right? And if we're all lifting each other up, and as we talk about like our higher mission to create a more inclusive and equitable sports industry, like I know for folks that maybe don't see someone that looks like them or don't connect with those things, they don't want to take help or they don't understand why that's important. It is important. It is not selling out. It is not getting an extra leg. It is paramount. People will make themselves available to you. They will want to help you. And they're doing that because someone did that for them. Trust it, follow it, lean into it. I can't say how valuable that's going to be. And the last thing I would say too is like you all like are peers. Like you guys bring social capital to conversation. Like I get so excited when I think about John and Jalen connected on LinkedIn after this, right? Or Iris and Mia connected on LinkedIn after this. And like you guys are going to be running shit in like 5 years, 3 years, 10 years, whatever. And you're going to be like, oh my God, remember we were on that panel one time back in 2021 with that bald dude? Like, what was his deal? Like, guys, the world works like that. Like my first internship was through a classmate. I get excited. The most excited I get about what we're doing is bringing like-minded, motivated, and inclusive group of students together so you guys can help one another. It doesn't have to be top to bottom. It can be us working together on this. So take advantage of that opportunity. Like the people in the chat, the people that are in your roundtables, your peers, build relationships with them. I cannot overstate how valuable and important that can be. You're not doing this alone. You shouldn't do it alone. Don't do it alone. We want to help you. Cool. With that in mind, we are going to shift to the career conversation. So Lana is going to suck us out of the main stage and back to the social lobby. Iris, Jalen, Kate, you are more than welcome to stick around and talk to students and talk to professionals. We'd love to have you. Just find a table and sit down. And then the core of that conversation is about internships. So this is the opportunity for those of you that weren't able to drop something in the Q&A to ask a professional about their internships and ask whatever questions you possibly have. We are so proud of you all for joining. And then Leah, I'll speak to you. You were in my class in the first year I taught. You're doing great things. You were courageous then. You're courageous now. Thanks for being a leader. You're amazing. Thank you for giving back. Iris and Jalen, so thankful that you guys gave us your time. Thank you so much. And Kate, thank you to your support individually and also Playfly support for putting on this panel, which I agree was an amazing, amazing panel.
All right.
All right, guys. So Lana, last instruction before we say goodbye.
Yep, I'll be sharing the table assignments again so everyone can find their way. Students, you're going by your last name initial, which is also laid out in the tables. And I will end the session now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.